Hey there, and welcome back to Holistic Health Masterclass Podcast. This is your host, Brett Hawes, and we are back after a couple months, more than a couple months actually, hiatus, which has been very good. I've actually enjoyed taking a break. I know many people have asked me what's going on with the podcast, why haven't you released any episodes, and I do think I'm going to give you some reasoning behind that and explain myself a little bit. As many of you know, towards the end of August, that was our last episode that we released, and shortly before that, we had the birth of my daughter, who is now almost about 4.5 months old. So I really wanted to just take a step back and focus on family, spend time with her, spend time with family. But also, here we are, December 3rd at the time of recording, and holy smokes, the world since August has changed beyond recognition, through my perspective anyway. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. So it's been very, very good to take a step back and to zoom out and to recharge and to refresh, because what is going on in the world right now is not a short battle that is going to be over once a vaccine shows up. Okay, so more on that in a little bit. We are in for a multi-year struggle. And what was happening to me, being so visible and being out there and being outspoken and really voicing my concerns, research, opinions, and all of that on social media, I just received so much backlash. And honestly, many of you have reached out to me. A lot of my personal friends have reached out to me. And we're all feeling the same kind of mental drain because no one wants to listen. Right, and the propaganda machine is well underway. So anyway, another reason here is I wanted to really sit down and take a step back and think about where I'm going with the podcast. All right, so what is the theme here? What is the focal point? Because people are so roned out right now that what we're doing is anything that's outside of pandemic and outside of virus, it's almost like no one wants to listen to any other content or read anything else except that. All right. And so you kind of then have to question, well, is there any point in putting out any other content, right? If no one's going to even bother to listen to it, what's the point? It's kind of a waste of time. And so after a few months of contemplation, I've come to the conclusion that what I'm going to be doing is focusing a lot on health, obviously, all right, but building resiliency, looking at things like mental health, looking at things like addiction, looking at things like self-sabotaging behavior, and really a core theme that you're going to hear me mention over and over and over again in the coming podcasts is building resiliency. Okay, resiliency comes in many different ways, shapes, and forms. So obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about building individual resiliency, but I do have a podcast coming up where we touch on community and building resiliency as a community. So that's one of the core themes. Another thing that I really sat down with for the last few months is, I really contemplated setting up a second podcast, believe it or not, because with censorship and everything else that's going on, I had to sit and think to myself, do I want to put a target on my back? Do I want to be so vocal out there on social media, receive all the backlash, but also then impact my business and impact the clinic and impact the practitioner program that I'm doing? Do I want that? And so I've come to the realization that, first of all, I'm not going to be doing 2 podcasts because it's double the work. And since you're all tuned into this podcast, I figured, what the hell, right? So why not just keep on talking about the pandemic and keep on bringing the truth to light and keep on showing it for the farce that it is, to be quite honest. All right. I'm going to talk more about the pandemic another time on a different show, all right? But moving forward, I would like to try, this is what I'm shooting for right now. I'm so crazy busy, but I'm shooting to try and release at least 1 podcast a week, but possibly 2. And the themes are going to be one podcast health, and the other podcast will be more revolving around current events, obviously circulating around health, sovereignty, et cetera, et cetera. So everything to do with pandemic and the fallout from there. So that's my intention moving forward. My Facebook is a disaster. It's just, I'm pretty sure I've been shadow banned at this point. So I've decided that I'm going to be building out my Instagram a little bit more. And I know it's owned by Facebook. I totally get that. But Instagram is one platform that I haven't destroyed with some of the more controversial issues that I've spoken about. So what you're going to notice if you are following me on Instagram is I'm pretty much going to be posting just the PC content, right? So things that are more kosher, things that are, just to do with health. I'm not really going to be posting any videos. So even the videos I'm interviewing with some of the activists and scientists where we do talk about controversial issues, I probably won't be posting those on YouTube at all. So you will only be getting that information through the podcast. All right, and that's it. I'm not going to be posting any of that on social media. Now, you might be wondering, why would I do that, right? Well, obviously, the first one is I don't want to be censored anymore because it's impacted my business. It took me 2 months to resolve a hacking issue into my email database, which was brutal, right? I literally could not communicate with anyone. Same thing with Facebook posts, same thing with everything. I was crippled for a couple of months. And that was a big wake-up call for me to sort of go, as we move online and everyone builds their business online, where are you building your business online? Because it's pretty much only happening on the big tech platforms, right? So that will be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and not really Twitter, but Twitter's obviously there as well. And the problem with that, which I don't think anyone is thinking about, is as we move into the virtual space and you rely on these tech companies for your business and for your livelihood, they can remove that at any given point. And that is exactly what happened with Facebook, right? I spent years building up my Facebook page, doing live videos every week. I mean, I've got dozens and dozens of live videos and articles and all sorts of stuff there. And literally overnight, they just flipped the switch and done, So I'm now very cautious about how I use social media. And I think there's something else that's a little bit more disturbing and sinister that's recently happened. Two people that I know who are in the activist world, I'll share one of their stories. He was about to board a flight. He had a medical exemption, everything above board, doctor's note, medical exemption, all the government papers filled out. He could not wear a mask, right? So anyway, he was about to get on a plane, and security called him over, and they flagged him at the airport, and they said, we're sorry, but we can't let you on the plane. And, because you're not wearing a mask. And he said, well, look, here's my exemption, blah, blah, blah. And 2-3 hours later, they basically kept him there. And it turns out that they had been, and when I say they, I don't really know who they is, but they denied him access to that flight based on his social media activity. Okay, based on his social media activity. And they said, based on his opinions, he's not allowed to get on that plane. Now, what that says to me is that we are under surveillance. Okay, we're under surveillance. And that might come as a bit of a shock to some of you. And for those of you who are knee-deep in the activist side of all of this, that might be quite shocking to you and quite disturbing to you. And I think it is. Okay, so what that means is that we kind of have to figure out, how do we navigate through all of this, and how do we move forward without putting a target on our back? Okay, and I've kind of fallen into that camp myself, being a visible person who has a somewhat decent following. So this is another reason why I'm not going to be pushing that stuff out into the public space. And I do believe for now that audio and the podcast will be one of the last places to get censored, and that's purely because they haven't fully developed the technology to actually scan audio, right? So they can keep track of all your social media posts, your blogs, your emails, everything, but the one thing that they haven't figured out how to track yet is going to be the podcast. Okay, so anyway, that's just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we're headed here. And I've got some great guests coming up on the show. I've just decided to go for it. We're a few weeks before Christmas, but let's fire it up. I'm feeling recharged. I'm feeling more energized, a little bit more grounded again. after a pretty harrowing summer, to be quite honest, and fall with all of this crazy stuff going on. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. I will just remind you as well that, as much as I do all the activist stuff and talk about the stuff on the podcast and talk about health, obviously, I've been extremely busy with my clinical practice. So, we are open. We're 100% virtual. And just getting a steady flow of people that are really deciding to invest in their health right now. So being really blessed that people are seeking help, they're coming to see me, and they're getting the help that they need, which is awesome. And also worth mentioning is my digestive health practitioner masterclass. We just finished the live session, and we're actually opening doors right now. You can get instant access to all of that information, including the book that I've written. And we've now had over 110 practitioners that have gone through that program, and the feedback has been absolutely incredible. I'm super humbled by all of that, and I've really decided that this is something that moving forward, I'm going to continue to build that program out and to really spend time with people and spend time with practitioners. So if you are a practitioner, a health coach, a nutritionist, a functional diagnostic practitioner, anything in that wheelhouse, definitely check out. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can check out the registration page there and see if that's a fit for you. But what's really cool for me is the practitioners that are in that group are now starting to utilize the protocols, the tools, the meal plans, the food lists that I've put together for them, and they too are now also seeing results. So for me, this year coming up is really about exponential impact, right? So exponential impact, helping practitioners to help other people, also really scaling up my practice, getting more efficient, and really focusing on gut health, autoimmune issues and hormone health. Okay, so that's kind of the areas that I specialize in, but that's where I'm headed with all of this. And again, I've been fortunate enough that I've really, air quotes, pioneered virtual practice. So for the last 5 years, I've been able to really do everything virtually. So whether that's supplementation, compounding, lab testing, blood draws, all of that stuff is done virtually. So if you're tuning into this and you're, outside of my vicinity, which is sort of the outskirts of the greater Toronto area, just know that I can help you virtually if you are in North America. And of course, I've now also brought on people from as far afield as Denmark, Brazil, South Africa, Australia, and so on. So we're operating internationally, and I would love to help you if you are looking for help using a functional medicine and clinical nutrition approach. So that's about it. I've got some pretty fiery podcasts coming up, and I think I'm going to leave my my sentiments about the pandemic and everything else for those shows, and we'll pick it up from there. So thanks for tuning into this short intro episode. If you don't want to miss any of these things, because I'm not going to be posting on social media, please just hit the subscribe button, okay? Hit the subscribe button, and if you haven't left a review for the podcast, I would really love that. It helps me to get on, better guests, more high-profile guests, and so on and so on. So thanks for tuning in, and we're going to see you with some pretty cool episodes in the next few days.